And welcome on into a Wednesday afternoon. Since it's Wednesday, that means it's Helping Seniors of Brevard, heard every Wednesday at this time, 12 noon to 1 o'clock. I'm John Harper. Let's get the show underway by introducing the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here's Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper, and hope your Wednesday is going well as well. And wow, it's always a great time to get together right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF FM radio, 30,000 watts, blasting all throughout the central east coast of Florida. And also a special welcome to those listeners who are joining us online at WEJF.net. Hello to you. And also the growing family that finds us as podcasts after the fact. You know, not only do a lot of listeners find these shows on Facebook Watch, or they subscribe to Helping Seniors of Brevard on the YouTube page, but now also we're every place good podcasts are found, which means you can find us on your Apple iTunes, you can find us on your iHeartRadio, you can find us on Spotify, or you can find us right there if you use Alexa and Amazon. We're on Amazon Podcast too. So tell your friends, and thanks for joining the Wednesday Lunch Bunch. And so excited. There's so many good things going on in the world of helping seniors. We're now in our 11th year of operation on behalf of our president and founder, Joe Steckler, and also our operations director, Nancy Deerdorf, and the entire Helping Seniors team. They actually, it's funny, we just literally, let me introduce our guest, because he's been with Joe longer than I've known Joe. And in fact, the story goes that it was Dr. Lee Sheldon, a noted area periodontist with Sheldon and Furtado PLLC, also oftentimes called the Solid Bite Guys. And you actually got Joe started in radio, Dr. Sheldon.
Joe and I got started together in TV.
I said that wrong. It was actually John Harper who got him started in radio. But yeah, you're the one who got his TV career rolling.
Exactly right. And look at, I'm so totally responsible for success. I really feel good about this. I took somebody who was at the top of naval service, and I brought him into local cable TV. This was really good. And I was very proud of that. So yeah, Joe and I got together because we were doing a program called Checkup. It was a health and medical program, and I thought what Joe was doing was interesting at that time with the Alzheimer's Association, that it would fit into what we were doing. And sure enough, Joe's a great guest, and we did several shows together.
Yeah, he's also a great host, as you know, and it's so funny how all this has developed, because now we're in our 11th year of service on the Helping Seniors effort. And last week, Jennifer Helen and Nancy Deerdorf, together with John Harper, they did a terrific radio show where they were actually talking about, and in fact, it's now out on the podcast, and you can find it there, but it was called How We Are Helping Seniors. And it really has some good information in it about not only the Senior Information Helpline, where we've helped more than 4,000 families to date here in Brevard County, but also talking a little bit about, Joe has always been strong about the media outreach, because the county is so large that the radio, the TV, the print is all necessary to reach, basically every place from Micco to Mims. And so I was thinking, because on Saturday, the big fundraiser that we always do every year for Helping Seniors got sort of a soft kickoff. They were out at Trinity Wellsprings Church in Satellite Beach. They have a big car show there called the 13th, well, this was the 13th annual, but they call it the Higher Power Car Show. And so I think Nancy and Joe had a Dodge Challenger out there, and it was our kickoff weekend for the 2022 Helping Seniors Car Raffle. And as a Florida nonprofit, Dr. Sheldon, you know as well as anybody, if we're not able to raise the support, we can't do the services. And this car raffle that Joe came up with years ago with AJ Hires, even when he was trying to build the Joe's Clubs for the Brevard Alzheimer's, This is what keeps the doors open and keeps the wheels turning and lets us help the 200,000 plus over 60 here in Brevard County. But they were out there, Dr. Sheldon, with the first batch of tickets for the car raffle. So I guess those people feel like they're going to have a great success. And on October 29th, somebody's going to get a car. And once again, Dr. Sheldon, they get the choice of a 20. Now it's going to be a 2022. Chevrolet Camaro, 2022 Dodge Challenger, or a Kia Sportage, or a Mazda Miata. And I think we talked about this before. Of those cars, which would be your preference?
Yeah, I would go for the Miata now. I just have to have it. I just have to have it.
You would look very. I could see you with like the little what do they call those? The little driver's caps, the beanies. I don't know, but you would look very cool tooling around in that.
Yeah, I would. And then I'd say no. Now where am I going to park it? So, those cars where they angle it in, where people have these fancy cars, they angle them in so they take up 2 spaces so that nobody will come close to them.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, somebody scratched my car 2 weeks ago, and my car is a 2013. And it still bugged me. So, yeah, we definitely we definitely need the Miata. I need to be able to have that feeling for once in my life that I've got this classy, snazzy sports car. Wow.
Yep, and every time somebody buys a ticket, it's 1 ticket for $25 or 5 for $100. And by the way, they are available. You can be kind of like the first group that buys tickets. You can get them just by calling Nancy on the Helping Seniors info line, which is 321-473-7770, 321-473-7770. And they are, of course, up online at helpingseniorscarraffle.com. So you can order them securely right there. You want to save that date, October 29th, 2022. You don't have to be present to win, but boy, if you can make it, you sure do, because that is the night of the big party out at Mark Pylock's fantastic American Muscle Car Museum. Last year, it was like 2,500 people just having the time of their life out there with Mark's amazing collection, $70-80 million worth of automobiles under one roof. And then not only is the guy kind enough to open up the museum for us to do our drawing, but he goes, look, I'll kick in. You guys are a charity. You need all the help you can get. I'll supply the beer, the wine, the food, and everything. You guys just get everybody here. And so we're so grateful to everybody. And Dr. Sheldon, we got to get tickets out to you. You guys have always helped us in this by being a ticket pickup point.
That's right.
So we're going to make sure we get tickets over to your office this week. So if people are in there, they can pick up their tickets, 1 for $25 or 5 for $100. It is so important because people think that nonprofits get all this money and it's just easy, but it sure isn't. It's a day by day fight, and that's why we need your help, because the 200,000 plus seniors, we say 1 out of 4 people in Brevard County is over 25, and 1 out of 2, if you just want to use the AARP definition, is over 50. That's why all of this is so important. And Dr. Sheldon, I just want to personally thank you for all the support that you've been to us. Literally, I mean, ever since I met Joe and he started this part of it up. I know you go back before, but you have been so integral, and your practice has been such a big help because you guys even do the charity program. And before we get into our topic, and I want to introduce our topic, this is going to be great. I have some questions I wrote down. I know we shared some questions back and forth just in those, but I have some questions too about this. And you probably do. You see these commercials on TV, and here's the question: is an implant just an implant? We're going to get into that, but just real quickly, you guys are known for actually kind of starting implants, and then you've written articles that say, are there too many implants? But you guys have a tremendous program that really helps us as a charity, and as long as we're on the fundraising moment about this, would you share with the listeners how that program works?
Yeah, that's very simple. People just come here, they make a $50 donation to Helping Seniors of Brevard, and they get the full examination, including the CT scans. CT scans usually go for $200 and $250. But just give us $50 to get the CT scan, the X-rays, the full evaluation, which we feel is very important. Our full evaluation is a 2-hour experience in the office, so you understand what all of your legitimate options are, and then you can decide what you would like to do. I love to carry. I'll tell you. First of all, the charitable giving campaign has been fantastic for us and has been fantastic for helping seniors. But we got a review a couple of months ago, and you know what? I put the review up on the sign, the digital sign outside. Do you know what the person said? No pressure.
Wow.
I didn't realize how important that was. Now, I took out the 2 words out of what was a fairly substantial paragraph as to how she felt her experience was in the office. But I didn't realize how much people feel pressured to do something in the dental office, or maybe for whatever. And the fact that she said that, and then we got another review that was similar to that within a few days. No pressure. We don't want to pressure you. We don't want to give you anything where you say you got to do it now or else. As a matter of fact, when we're setting up our treatment plan for you, we're talking about and we did a program on this, Kerry. Remember we talked about the have-tos and the want-tos.
Right.
The have-tos are the infections, the things that are threatening your health. The want-tos are to make your teeth look pretty, even to get your bite correct. You know, that's more of a want-to. And so we separate this out into a priority list where we're saying, all right, this we'll even take the have-tos and we'll make different grades on that, so that the patient has an understanding as to the importance of that particular thing and what can be put off for a while. And I didn't realize how important it was to patients until we received those 2 reviews.
You know, Dr. Sheldon, as you say that, I was just thinking about our own personal experience. I'm talking about myself and my wife, Tammy, because we are patients of yours, and that so perfectly sums it up. You know, when we were in there, we kind of, we understand where we are, we understand what we can afford to do, we understand what we would like to do, but maybe not yet there to be able to afford to do it, and I think that's probably not an uncommon thing, right? You know, first of all, we're all terrified to go to the dentist's office because we think it's going to involve pain, number one, but then the second part of it is we also know it's going to involve finances, and then we're kind of scared of that whole unknown part of it, I think.
I think so too, and it doesn't have to be that way. So anyway, the fact that you are here and that you have the opportunity to come in, and the money goes to Helping Seniors of Brevard, the $50 to charity, and we would encourage you to donate more, because certainly that examination is worth at least $400. So write a check for $400 to Helping Seniors. If you write a check for $50 to Helping Seniors, you'll get the full examination.
Yeah, and we so appreciate all that you do to help us along. Well, with that kind of as a background, and just kind of as we're exploring this thing, we get bombarded with commercials, Dr. Sheldon, all the time. You can't turn on the TV. In fact, as I sit here and I talk about that we have a channel on YouTube, I'm surprised how often I'll go in to click one of the Helping Seniors videos, and up pops, one of these national centers that you always see on TV, and they're talking about, you should just get dental implants. Yank your teeth out and get dental implants. And to me, it always feels like it probably oversimplifies the situation, which is why when we were talking about the topic for today's radio show is an implant, just an implant, and I thought, what a great place to begin, because I always have this feeling whenever we try to tackle subjects from Helping Seniors, you're the expert. You kind of innovated the way for dental implants and have seen all aspects, how it can really improve and make such a difference in people's lives, and then yet you also, as a periodontist, understand the importance of saving teeth. And it's so interesting, as we've done shows over the time, to hear you balance that out. But I guess maybe a first place to talk about is you got the article that's coming out about this, and what kind of prompted you to put that together that way?
I think this came from Michelle, from Dr. Furtado, and I think it was so important. And you and I have never discussed this, and Joe and I have never discussed this either.
Yeah.
you see dental implants, and listen, I want you to think of a dental implant. It's a screw. That's all it is. It's a screw that holds onto a tooth. It's a screw that's made specially in order to be able to go in a bone, but it's a screw.
Wow.
The screw is not what's important. Do you know what is important, Kerry? The amount of bone and the amount of gum tissue around the screw. Because the bone needs to be nourished in order to be able to make sure the screw, or dental implant, stays in place.
Wow.
So if we let's assume that we put an implant into very thin bone. Where's the blood supply? The bone has to have a certain thickness. As a matter of fact, we know what that thickness is. We know that implant needs to have 2 millimeters of bone support on either side of the dental implant in order to be able to get enough of a blood supply to keep that bone going for a long period of time. We already know that. And so if we're trying to slip an implant into an area that's thinner than that 2 millimeters, so let me go over it again. Okay, so we need 2 millimeters on either side of an implant. An implant is at least 3 millimeters in diameter. So we need 3 plus 2 plus 2. We need 7 millimeters of bone in order to put in the narrowest implant that we use.
Wow.
That means that when we extract a tooth, for example, when we extract a tooth, then some of that bone is going to go away when we extract the tooth, just by virtue of the trauma from extraction. We have to predict in advance how thick the bone should be and how thick the gum tissue will be, and we have to graft that amount of material in order to make sure that we have an implant that's going to be stable for many, 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 many years.
Wow.
That's the difference between, I can put an implant in and we have an implant that's there, that's stable and has the least chance of getting disease around it. You see, because if the bone and the gum don't have enough blood supply, then what's going to happen? That bone and gum are going to go away, and that's when we start to get infections around dental implants. All of our efforts here are to make the bone and gum tissue thick enough so you're not repeating that dental implant surgery again.
Wow, and so I know we've done radio and TV shows, and by the way, folks, that's another reason why you want to. You can just go to the Helping Seniors of Brevard.org website and just in the search, type in Dr. Sheldon, and you'll see so many excellent informational programs, both the radio shows, the TV shows, the articles. Dr. Sheldon of Solid Bite Dental has contributed in over the years to helping seniors. But I was thinking about this because we were having this conversation. I was talking with Jim Votro, who is one of the he's actually John's partner in everything we do on the radio side. And so we were talking before the show, and he was describing something that was a question that I actually wanted to ask you as we were talking about it. He was talking about he has an 88-year-old relative who lives, I think it may be his brother, I'm not sure, but who lives out on the West Coast and had just come in for an implant. And I think he may have possibly answered the question here, but he said he was telling Jim, I guess, that he has to wait for almost a year before he can really operate normally. Does that sound normal, or I mean, I don't know if that has to do with the bone healing and all that kind of thing, or.
Well, ordinarily when we're doing our implant placement, if we have the opportunity, and we usually do, we can do the implant procedure and the bone and soft tissue grafting all in one single visit. So we don't need to, there was a time, and I was in dental implants, near the beginning of dental implants, there was a time when we'd extract the tooth and we'd have to wait 4 or 6 months until the bone finally healed, and then we would put the implant in, and then we'd wait another 3 or 4 months or even 6 months after that before we were ready to put the tooth on the implant. Now, when we do an extraction or when we do an implant, we make room for the bone graft and make room for the soft tissue graft all at the same time, so that you only have one delay rather than multiple delays. And even these days, there are times when we'll put the implant in and we'll put a temporary tooth on the implant all on the same day. So what was the rule at one time is no longer the rule, as long as you have your surgical techniques and your surgical protocols in order. You can get more than one thing done at one time.
Oh, wow. Well, and I guess that probably moves us along this line. I didn't realize until I saw an advanced copy of your article, or maybe it's Dr. Michelle's article, I'm not sure, but it said there's lots of brands of dental implants. I never would have ever thought of that. I thought a dental implant is a dental implant.
That's right. There are lots of different brands of orthopedic implants. There's lots of there are people who are out there to manufacture products that have particular advantages, and they do market those to us. I mean, we have the choice of, it's got to be at least 40 different dental implants that we can buy. There's probably a lot more than that now.
Wow.
And when they're marketed to us, they're all have certain advantages, and in some cases they do. There's certain advantages to the surgeon, not necessarily to the patient. Each dental implant has properties which are good and which are beneficial to the patient. Now, the way we treat that dental implant is a little bit different depending upon how that implant is constructed. So we will do different things with different dental implants should we use more than one brand in order to be able to take advantage of the positive properties of that implant. But as with anything, once you get used to a particular implant, you tend to want to use that implant more and more because you know all of the properties, all of that implant. And so you tend to specialize in one brand of implant just because you're used to that. And as long as you have all of the gum tissue in the right place, as long as you sink the implant in the correct position and you treat the platform or the part of the implant that interfaces with the tooth, if you treat that properly by doing the design of the tooth properly, then you've got the best opportunity to keep things going for as long as possible. And it takes some work. It takes some science. It takes some training. Michelle just came back from 3 separate trips to Portugal over the past 3 months. Well, it was October, November, and December, because there was a particular bone and soft tissue grafting technique that he wanted to learn, and it was a 3-part series. What was interesting is that Michelle was the only American who was taking that course. Michelle is from Brazil, and he speaks Portuguese. The program was given in Portuguese, so he was the only American taking that course. He just been so excited to find enhancements of the techniques that, of course, he's been applying here so well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're talking about Dr. Michelle Furtado, who is in the Solid Bite team there with Dr. Sheldon and Furtado
PLLC, for God's sake.
LLC. That's right. You're sort of like you sort of work for him and for your son now, right, Dr. Matt Sheldon? So we're about to take a.
Let me tell you, that's kind of hard to put. A kind of a hard concept for me to grasp, but I'm finally grasping it.
I hear you. Well, we're about to take a mid-show break, and we're going to come back on the other side of this, but I want you to let you know, listener, that we're going to be continuing the conversation with Dr. Lee Sheldon of Solid Bite and Sheldon and Furtado PLLC. We're talking about the topic, is an implant just an implant? And real quick, before we go into the break, I just see again on your website, drleesheldon.com, that you won the 2021 Best of the Best again on the Space Coast. Congratulations.
We did it again. Thank you very much, Kerry.
How many? That you guys have been around since 1980 here on the coast, and it's like you look at the website and you see winner after winner, and that's what it's all about. So we're going to take.
Just used to us.
That's good. Well, we're going to take our half-show break, and we'll be back with more of Is an Implant Just an Implant on Helping Seniors Radio.
And that music is getting us back into the second part of today's Helping Seniors of Brevard show. Let's get back to it with your host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard, Kerry Fink. Hey, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper, and thank you again. And welcome, listener, back to the second half of the Helping Seniors radio gathering. We get together every Wednesday, lunchtime, 12 noon, right here on 90.3 FM. Great radio station, blasts up and down all of, we call it the Space Coast, but even we welcome listeners from Orlando and down in Indian River County and all of that as well, and to the, actually, theoretically, it could be a worldwide audience on WEJF.net internet, and also special welcome to those who are joining us via podcast. We appreciate your listening and your support. We invite you to find us on Facebook. Just type in Helping Seniors of Brevard, and you can like and follow all the things that we're doing there. We are a Florida 501c3 charity established by Joe Steckler, retired Navy captain, whose last command in the Navy was actually the Navy's retirement home there in Gulfport, Mississippi. And as he retired from service to our country, he and his lovely wife, Terry, they moved to Satellite Beach, and Joe couldn't stay retired. So the first thing he did was get things going with the Brevard Alzheimer's and establish those Joe's Clubs, which are those great daycare facilities throughout Brevard County. There's 3 of them located around the county. And then as he retired from Brevard Alzheimer's, he still couldn't stay retired. So he starts up Helping Seniors. And now we are in our 11th year of providing service to the county as a nonprofit via our Helping Seniors Information Helpline. That's a free call. It's 321-473-7700. 321-473-7770. And Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, oversees that part of everything we do. And today we've helped more than 4,000 families. And we always explain to people it's more than just a referral. It's not like you call up and say, here's what I've got and here's a phone number and good luck to you. We actually do the best we can to get involved in a particular situation and try to see it through, meaning that if a resource that we're able to connect you with isn't exactly the right resource, we're going to keep fighting to find one that's going to make a difference. We get calls about everything. I would invite you to take a listen to last week's excellent radio program that Jennifer Helen, who is the owner of Seniors Helping Seniors, and also Nancy Deerdorf put together, where they were talking really about how we are helping seniors. It's a great organization. We need your support. Find out more information at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. But before we headed into the mid-show break, I was congratulating our guest today, Dr. Lee Sheldon. He's a noted area periodontist. He is sort of like, I would, without making you sound old, Dr. Sheldon, I would call you the grandfather of implants in our area, or father of implants in our area maybe is better.
Grandfather, it's okay. I like being a grandpa anyway.
No, and you guys, you've really led the way, but you've also led the way in helping us get information about this, because it's so interesting to follow the pattern. We've done so many shows along the way. All of these, by the way, are available. If you're interested, listener, you can see TV shows, you can hear the radio shows, but we've talked about everything from how, a perfect smile to how actually having a smile work done can literally change your life dramatically. Sometimes it may be personal, sometimes it may be in the career side of things, but you really have a number of testimonies on that. But today we're kind of focused in on this whole topic. And I think it's a fascinating topic because we see all the commercials, but the question that we raised and have been talking about is an implant just an implant? And in the first half of the shows, one of the things that was kind of revelational for me was I just thought there was just an implant and it didn't matter because what you said at the outset was you said an implant is basically a screw. So you run down to Home Depot, you get a screw, and you're off to the races. But it's not that simple, is it?
It isn't. Just imagine that you have a 2x4 and you have a screw that's 1.5 inches wide screwed into that 2-inch side of the board. What would happen on either side of that screw? It would chip. It would splinter. And so the same thing will happen in the mouth unless we have sufficient bulk on every side of the dental implant. Then the dental implant is likely to fail as well. So putting the screw is not the more difficult part of it. In fact, that is actually fairly easy as long as you have your planning down correctly. And of course, with the planning that we do is to always do the surgery on the computer before we ever do it in your mouth, so that we know exactly where the implant is going to be. As a matter of fact, we just got a new 3D printer. This is our second 3D printer in order to be able to construct a guide that we can put in the mouth that puts the implant in the exact same place that we put it in on the computer when we're doing doing your design. So really neat about positioning. But then once we, in addition to having it positioned correctly, we want to make sure there's enough thickness of gum tissue and enough thickness of bone tissue to provide continual nourishment to the bone surrounding the implant. The continual nourishment is your assurance that implant is going to stay in the right place. And if we don't have continual consistent nourishment, if we don't have that volume of bone and that volume of gum tissue to keep things to keep things steady and to keep that implant surrounding bone nourished, then there is some likelihood or more of a tendency towards failure.
You know, and that's actually a preview, because that was a question I was going to ask. You know, it always sounds like when you see one of those TV commercials, you know, like, oh, this is just the simplest thing. You know, you're going to take out your teeth, you're going to put in these implants, and there'll never be a problem again. It just has that ring to it. And yet I know from experience, at least the things we've talked about on radio and TV, you said you're always very careful to take a moment. In fact, I think there's a TV show out there that we did, which is why sometimes an implant isn't really the best answer. And so it has to be that you look at the whole situation. But why would a dental...
I mean, we talked about it before. There are far too many teeth that are being extracted in favor of dental implants when they don't have to be. That's not what we're talking about today, but that is a continuing theme. As a matter of fact, a group of 5 of us from all over the country who are top researchers and top clinicians and professors have written an article in the Compendium of Continuing Education in Dentistry, which was published in January of this year, and just last month, to emphasize the points that are necessary in doing periodontal treatment and evaluating the tooth properly to see if the tooth can be saved. And we've essentially set guidelines on what dentistry should do in order to be able to give a patient every opportunity to keep his or her teeth. It's not today's discussion, but I'm very proud of that paper.
Yeah, no, that's important information. We're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon of Sheldon and Furtado, PLLC. But let's ask that question then. What would cause the dental implant to, implode, go down, or what does that actually mean if a dental implant fails?
Essentially what happens is the implant itself loses its bone support. And you'll get that by a smell, by an odor around the implant. You'll see bleeding or get bleeding around the dental implant. And when you do a periodontal probing examination around the implant, you'll find the pockets are developing. All of that is indicative that the implant itself is infected, is losing its bone support. And then our efforts are, what can we do to prevent that bone support from being lost any further? Far better to prevent that by having thick enough bone and thick enough gum tissue that we don't have to worry about that problem of dental implant failure.
But that actually probably also almost answers us towards the next question I wanted to ask you, which is then what is the important aspects of a dental implant procedure? I guess you're going to explain that it has a lot to do with setting everything up the right way carefully the first time.
It is. I mean, that's why we spend so much time in planning. That's why we have 3 different softwares just for planning the implant case. And of course, an implant should never be done. And I'm going to say never here, unless a CT scan is done first, because we want to know what the thickness, the volume, and the best position, the volume of the bone and the best position for placement of that implant within the bone. So CT scan is a must in order to be able to do that. But then in doing our evaluation, both on a tooth that's going to be extracted and we're going to place an immediate implant, as well as an area where the tooth has been gone for quite some time, is that we're looking not only at the volume of the bone, but the volume of the bone for the ideal position of the implant, because that implant or that implant supported tooth has to bite against the opposing tooth, and so the position has to be correct in order to be able to get the bite correct. When we're talking about an aesthetic case, a front tooth case, we've got to make sure that the gum tissue doesn't recede, and so we need to have enough bulk of gum tissue that implant supported tooth looks like a natural tooth, that it's emerging from from the gum rather than overlapping the gum. If it emerges from the gum, it looks good. If it overlaps the gum, it may look okay, but how are you ever going to clean around a tooth that's overlapping the gum? I mean, you've got an overlap, and then you've got the implant underneath there. There's no way to clean it properly. So we're looking for thickness, volume of tissue, quality of bone for that implant, to be maintained and be healthy for a long period of time. In addition, in an anterior case, in a front tooth case, we can't have recession around a dental implant. It will look funny, particularly when you can see the gum line. And so by preparing the gum tissue and adding soft tissue grafting to that area, and we'll get the soft tissue from another part of the mouth and put that and combine that with your existing gum tissue, that's what assures you of having the correct volume and the correct aesthetics so that the gum tissue stays where it's supposed to be and the implant lasts for a long time.
You know, as you're explaining that, to me it's fascinating because what I'm gathering is that not only is there a lot of technical, you're doing it's like almost like building a beautiful building, right? The architect has to really think about all the design ramifications. Is it going to be structurally sound? Is it going to do the thing that you want this building to do? And then it seems on top of that, there's a lot of, I would use the term artistry because you want that building when it's completed to be something that people go, wow, that's beautiful. It looks natural. It fits the surroundings and all of that. And of course, we're not talking about buildings. We're talking about dental implants. But that was the kind of the analogy that came up. It's like you have to be just as precise as the engineer for who's building a building because you have to have all those things in place. But then you're also concerned with the aesthetics of it as well.
That's correct, and I think building is a good analogy, and it's the reason we use architects. It's the reason we use top contractors when we're having something built, because the architect is going to develop the plan, but it's only the engineer and the contractor who follow the plan. And if they follow the plan precisely, you'll get the results that the architect intended. In our case, we're both the architect as well as the treatment planner as well as the construction person. So we're doing it all. And it's important that you take every step and look at each of those steps independently to make sure the patient is going to get the best result possible.
So a lot of times, I guess particularly this is where experience would seem like it matters, right? You don't, I'm kind of scared of generic things. So a lot of times you see, when you see somebody just shouting dental implants, I guess the deeper we go into this, the less you want to just be generic about this, the more you want to make sure that you're really thinking through and making the right decision. But I guess that leads me to a question. And how do you make an implant supported tooth look like a tooth? Because I didn't even think about all those things when you started talking about, how it matches up to the gum. I would just thought, I'd just pull a tooth out and stick another one in there. Who cares?
Right. One of the problems with dental implant replacement is that the dental implant itself is round. It's a cylinder. Now, there are some modifications of the cylinder, but basically it's a cylinder. When we extract the tooth, the extraction site can be oval shaped. It can be almost square. It can be triangular. And so we're taking a single round implant or cylindrical implant, and we're trying to get it to match that triangular space. Unless we do something to recreate that socket the way it used to look, then the implant is going to look like a tooth on a pogo stick.
Wow.
So what we need to do when we put the implant in, particularly on the day that we extract the tooth, we don't want that extraction site to collapse. We don't want the gum tissue to collapse. And so when we put the implant in, we'll put something called a healing abutment, which is something that screws into the implant that exits the implant and goes through the gum tissue to the outside. And then around that healing abutment, we'll fill that in with filling material to support the gum tissue so that gum tissue doesn't recede and so that gum tissue tissue doesn't grow in, so that we preserve the socket exactly the way it was. So then when we had that socket formed, then the restorative dentist, in this case my son, Matthew, can go back in there and he can reconstruct that tooth, not just in the part that shows, but the part that interfaces with the gum tissue, so that it looks like, acts like, and duplicates the position of the gum tissue in the original tooth. It gives it a much more natural appearance.
Wow. We're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon with Solid Bite, and a great website with some good information on it that I've enjoyed looking through, drleesheldon.com. But really, I think what we're talking about today is an implant, just an implant. Dr. Sheldon, you're giving some really good insight and information that is helping us to understand that it's not just a cut and paste kind of operation. It really takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of, I use the term artistry to get a finished result that someone is going to be pleased with, not only aesthetically, but also, I guess I would say medically, meaning that it's doing what you intended it to do. So how can you be sure an implant is placed correctly? Like it just seems so complex.
When you talk about artistry, let me add to that a little bit, Kerry. It's artistry with certain measurements to determine that we've done it correctly. Mm-hmm. In other words, at the beginning of the show, and some listeners may not have been here, if we know that we need at least 2 millimeters of bone on either side of the implant, well, we can measure that in advance and we can determine how much grafting we need to do in order to be able to create that 2 millimeters. If we know that we need a certain type of gum tissue, we can look at the gum tissue that's there now, understand what we need to do in order to be able to put not only the correct volume of gum tissue, but the correct quality of gum tissue, get it from another part of the mouth if we need to, in order to be able to rebuild that correctly. All of that is done through measurements that we do on our CT scan and our treatment planning software, so that we know what we need to do at the time of surgery to make sure that surgery is done correctly, and then we have the correct volume of gum tissue in order to produce the stable result and the aesthetic result that you want. So it is the precision of measurements. There are literally calipers, or there are measuring tools within the software that allow us to know within 1/10 of a millimeter how much bone we need to rebuild in order to be able to do the work correctly. But so let's assume that we've done that. We've done all of the planning, and then we've done the implant procedure. What's next? The moment that we put the implant in, or as soon as the patient is discharged, or as soon as the patient is out of the treatment room, then we're taking another CT scan to make sure that we've done what we said we were going to do. Things can happen. Thank God they don't happen very often, but we want to verify that everything that we planned was actually done, so the patient has every opportunity of healing well and getting a good result the first time.
Yeah, it really does point out that this is really kind of precision. It's like you're marrying technology, you're marrying artistry, you're marrying engineering. I don't know if that's the right word when we're talking about teeth, but it really should help us as general public who doesn't really understand a lot about these things, to get a sense that it's just there's a lot that goes into all this. It's not just yank a tooth and stick one in. That's what I keep walking away with here.
It is, and that's why Michelle is trained so hard in order to be able to make sure that we're delivering the best that we can in Brevard County. That he is at the top of his game. But it's also why Matthew goes to Phoenix for advanced study on restorative dentistry. We want to be able. It was a big deal for me to be able to establish the reputation that we have. The fact that we have two doctors here who are going through extraordinary extraordinary efforts to maintain whatever reputation that I developed over the years, it means that our patients are going to continually get the most advanced care and the most thorough care possible in order to be able to give them long-lasting results. That's our whole goal. And whether we're saying we need to save teeth and we use the technology to save teeth, or whether we're talking about reconstructing if necessary by doing dental implants, the whole goal is to provide the patient with the best we possibly can.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I'm actually on your website even right now, drleesheldon.com, and I see right there on the homepage a thing that talks about metal-free implants.
Yes, you're right. And there are certain people who would like to have a metal-free result. And so years ago, when people who were health conscious decided, and I'm not sure there's validity in that, by the way, but they decided they wanted ceramic implants. We were one of the first specialists in the nation, and certainly within Florida, to be able to provide ceramic implants for those patients who decided they wanted that. And people would come from 100, 150, 200 miles around in order to be able to get that work done. As a matter of fact, I flew to Barcelona myself in order to be trained by the inventor of the implant. So it was fun. It was a great trip to Barcelona, and I learned a lot. So it was good. But that's what we like to do. I mean, you've got 3 doctors, and primarily they're the ones who do the work, not me, but who are excited about what they do, and they want to be able to just provide the best, and they go through a lot of time and expense in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, I know back in the day pre-COVID, you guys were known for doing a lot of these community seminars, which were exactly what you mentioned at the beginning of the show when you were talking about the lady who put the review that said no pressure. But it was really a great informational moment because you could go in there, you could of course see the excellent success stories, people coming out with beautiful smiles after sort of a very kind of like, I want to cross the street because I don't want to look at your, don't want to look at you in the mouth, kind of starting pictures. But you also really took the time to explain all that. Now, are you guys back to, or is it possible? Or are you guys doing these online? Or what's the best way people say, hey, I'm intrigued by this, I want to learn more. How do I learn more? What would you suggest to somebody?
First of all, by all means, go to the website, solidbite.com, and you can find a lot of information there. You can call and you can get our book, and we can send our book out to you. You can just stop over the office and pick up the book, The Ultimate Mouth Manual, which is, and I'm writing the 4th edition right now. So you can get that kind of information. But the best thing to do is write a check for $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard County and come in and get the full examination at no charge.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. We're talking with Dr. Lee Sheldon with Sheldon and Furtado, PLLC, the website, solidbite.com. But I'd forgotten about that. You did write that book, The Ultimate Mouth Manual, and I'm happy to say I have my own personally signed by the author copy of it. But even that was, again, as we've been talking about these topics, there's so much good information in there. And it's really good to know these things because so often we just see a commercial and we think, well, that's what I ought to do, but we don't really understand all the parameters. And one of the things that to me seems so important is, as we've talked about the complexity of it, as we've talked about wanting to do it correctly and securely and being sure that what we do lasts and that we've looked at all those things, just all this technology, all the experience, all that really seems to matter in this, Dr. Sheldon.
It is. And if you look at what our primary goal is for the dental implant to as close as possible duplicate the tooth. If we have that, then we've done our job.
Yeah,
that's what our patients are looking for. They don't want implants. They want teeth.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make that dental implant as close to a natural tooth as we possibly can.
So if somebody wanted to reach your office, what is the best way to do that? What's the number they
Just give our office a call at 321-259-8000, 259-8000. Talk with Jennifer. Jennifer is usually the one you'll talk to, but everyone knows. Just say Helping Seniors of Brevard, and they'll know exactly how to direct you in order to be able to give that donation and get the examination, CT scan, x-rays, all at no charge.
Yeah, that's a great value for the listener in terms of really getting an understanding of what would be the best route. But at the same time, it's a great blessing to us as a charity because it is what funds the work and keeps us going. So again, Dr. Lee Sheldon with Solid Bite, solidbite.com, and you're right there on Sarno Road. I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through some of the things that we need to know and consider. The topic of today's show is an implant, just an implant. And so as we move towards closing up this week's radio show, again, listener, I want to remind you to have a look at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. You'll find all the information in so many areas that we try to tackle. We talk about everything in there. We've talked about legal, we talked about financial, we've talked about medical, we've talked about dental, we've talked about housing, we talked about roof replacements. There's so much material that's available in there. If you'll go there, you're going to get lots of information. And again, being 100% local. So, you may see something come in from a national aging organization or something like that. But the reality is when you are looking at Helping Seniors Brevard, we're all your neighbors. We're all right here together in Brevard County, moving through all of this together, whether it be the aging experience or COVID or any of that. So as we wrap up today's show, I want to say thank you to Dr. Lee Sheldon for joining us today. Thanks to John Harper and Jim Votro for helping us get this on the air. And thank you, listener, for liking and sharing. And we'll see you next week on Helping Seniors.